Is compound interest really going to make you a millionaire? Or is this another in a long line of get-rich-easy schemes that doesn't quite live up to the billing? I'm going to break down the math to show you why you're being deceived by finance gurus and the ways that compound interest can actually help you. I've spent the last 10 years building my finances back from broke to healthy. In that time, compound interest came up a lot. And I want to share the tips and tricks I've learned with you to ensure that you can do the same. After a lot of research, here is what I found and the truth behind compound interest. Compound interest is so appealing because the gains are exponential, not linear. That means that instead of your money increasing in a flat line upwards, it has this built-in curve, which makes it appear as though the gains are limitless. To the moon! Let's put this in a real-world example. So I've got $1,000. I'm going to invest that over a period of 3 years at a 10% interest rate. Now just bear with me, 10% interest rate is probably not going to be feasible, but we'll come back to that in a bit. What's the first thing that's going to happen? I'm going to invest that $1,000, and over the year we're going to gain an extra $100 from the 10% interest that we've got on that investment, which will leave us at the end of the year with $1,100. Now in year 2, that $1,100 investment is going to work harder than the $1,000 investment we had at the start in year 1. So we'll see a gain there of $110, which will leave us with $1,210 at the end of year 2. Now in year 3, again, this is working even harder for us. We've now got $1,210. The 10% interest on that will be $121, and that will leave us with $1,331. So you can see here, each year the amount that you put in actually increases by the amount of interest that you get each year, meaning you're getting interest on your interest. So at the end of this period, you have $331. If that was just a flat 10% rate over 3 years, you'd be looking at $300. The compounding effect has given us an additional $31 just over the course of 3 years with a $1,000 investment. So you can probably start to see how this could build up over time to be quite a significant portion of money. But wait, you've probably seen many financial gurus talk about compound interest as this get-rich-easy scheme. It's not that. We're going to run through a super quick example here to demonstrate the amounts that we're actually talking about when it comes to compound interest. So what you should do, have a quick Google for a compound interest calculator. This is one that I found earlier. And we're just going to model out a simple example based on a couple of assumptions. So the first assumption is an initial investment. This is how much you can put into the account right off the bat. So here, just to make this super easy, I've put $10,000 as that initial investment. We're going to see how much that is going to increase over the period that we're talking about. I'm going to assume a monthly contribution of $500. Now, already caveat here, $10,000 is a lot of money. You might not have that much straight away to put into an account, and $500 a month might be more than you'd be able to afford to put in something that is going to sit in an account for a very long time. So if, like me, you're in your 30s, we're going to assume a 30-year period. So if you're investing today, what that means is in your 60s, when you come to retirement age, this is the pot of money that you would have to play with. In terms of the estimated interest rate over this period, most people now are saying 7 to 8% is a nice conservative estimate of what the market performance will be like for an investment over an extended period. So I'm going to be conservative, we'll go for 7% in this example, and we're going to select compound frequency annually. That just means at the end of the year is the point at which your interest will start to accrue. So the result is that after 30 years, after a $10,000 initial investment and contributing $500 each month, you will see a whopping $642,000 in your account. But that sounds alright, right? Let's break that down a bit more. So what we see after the first 5 years is that you will have deposited $40,000 and the interest on that will be $8,500. That's after 5 years. In 10 years, you'll have deposited $70,000 with $32,000 in interest on top. Now in 20 years, you'll have deposited $130,000 with $154,000 in interest. But by 30 years, you'll have invested $190,000 into this account. And the interest on that, $452,000. And that brings us to our total of $643,000. Now, what I'm trying to show with this is that actually a lot of the legwork is done at the end of that calculation. 5 years in, we've only got 8,000 extra from our initial investment, and that's assuming we can put up 30 grand in the first 5 years. And actually it's only as we get from 17 to 20 years that our interest actually overtakes the amount that we've been putting in over that period of time. 20 years. Now, I started this by saying if you're in your 30s like me, you might be accessing this money at 60. But what else doesn't this model even take into account? This model assumes that over the 30-year period, you are A, going to be able to continue to invest the same amount each month, and B, you don't touch that money at all. It just sits in the account. Now, for the last 5 years have taught us anything is that you don't really know what's around the corner. If a pandemic comes along and you lose your job, you might need to dip into those savings and take stuff out. If you have a kid, you might want to consider spending some money on them. And what if you get to 60 and you're sick? That money might just be used to keep you alive for the rest of your life. And every time you dip into that pot to take away money, you're reducing the power that's going to happen in those last 10 years. So after listening to this, you might just be thinking, what's the point? Let's just YOLO the money, spend it now. Who cares about the future? Now, that's not what I am advising at all. But the message I want to get across here is that compound interest is not going to make you a millionaire overnight. If anything, it's a tool that can be used to invest for your future and save your retirement, and also a tool to help protect against some unexpected events that might come across the way. Now, there are some great ways that you can invest money over time consistently to make the most of this compound interest effect. There are actually providers out there that have set funds that you can invest into that have a specific deadline of when you'd like to draw them out. So let's say I wanted to retire in 2065. I could pick a fund that was targeted to a retirement at 2065. And what these do, which is really cool, is they're actually built to reduce the level of risk as you get closer to retirement, because the investments that you would make now in your 30s, 20s, are not going to be the same level of risk as those you might want as you get closer to withdrawing that money. The last thing you want is to lose a big chunk of that money right at the end game when you've accrued all this interest. And I would actively encourage you to set up a habit where you start saving money each month and investing it into something that is going to sort you out later in life. But what I don't want anyone thinking is that compound interest is going to get them rich in the next 10 years. Because unless you invest a lot up front and a lot each month, you are not going to get anywhere in a short period of time. So I've shared links below for the compound interest calculator you can use if you want to fiddle around with a few numbers. I've also linked the inflation calculator that I use as well. And if you want more tips for how to maximize your money and avoid making the silly mistakes that a lot of us fall into, please do subscribe to the channel and there'll be more content coming your way soon.